The Champions League, Copa Libertadores, the World Cup. The world's top athletes get to play in these top-level sporting events thanks to one thing: teamwork. And teamwork can also protect your financial legacy and your family's future. SelectQuote's licensed insurance agents are the perfect teammates when shopping for customized, affordable life insurance. They can find you the right policy to keep your financial legacy safely in your family's home ground. SelectQuote is one of America's leading insurance brokers with nearly 40 years of experience, helping over 2 million customers find over $700 billion in coverage since 1985. Other life insurance brokers offer impersonal, one-size-fits-all policies that may cost you more and cover you less, while SelectQuote's licensed insurance agents work for you to tailor a life insurance policy for your individual needs in as little as 15 minutes. And have you ever worried about getting coverage with pre-existing health conditions? SelectQuote partners with carriers that provide policies for a variety of health conditions. High blood pressure, diabetes, done your ACL? No problem. SelectQuote partners with carriers that can cover those conditions and loads of others. Or, if you don't have any major health issues, they work with carriers that can get you same-day coverage with no medical exam required. Get the right life insurance for you for less at selectquote.com/ranks. Go to selectquote.com/ranks today to get started. That's selectquote.com/ranks.
Flu can be wild. If you're pregnant, a flu shot can tame the symptoms of flu for you and your baby. Talk to your healthcare provider about a flu shot and take flu from wild to mild. A message from CDC.
This podcast is brought to you by Kleenex Lotion Tissues. You can't predict sick days, but with Kleenex Lotion Tissues, you can be better prepared for them while helping keep your skin healthy. Kleenex Lotion Tissues moisturize to help prevent skin irritation while you're battling those unwanted cold and flu symptoms. It's extra care when you need it most. Keep relief within reach. Grab Kleenex Lotion Tissues to help avoid the added discomfort of irritated skin during cold and flu season. For whatever happens next, grab Kleenex.
Parents, did you know that only 50% of U.S. adults are financially literate? Millions of people don't fully understand how to manage money, and it's up to you to not let your kids grow up into that statistic. With Greenlight's educational money app and parent-controlled debit card, you can teach them how to earn, save, and invest wisely. The earlier they learn, the better prepared they'll be to manage their money and build a financially secure life. Give your kids the financial edge they need. Sign up for Greenlight today at greenlight.com/podcast. That's greenlight.com/podcast.
Holiday magic is in the air, and DSW's got all the shoes to make your season extra merry. Believe, you've got parties to attend and lists to check twice, so DSW is taking care of the details, like gifts to make their eyes all aglow, styles that bring joy to your world, brands everyone wants, like UGG, Nike, Birkenstock, and more, and deals to make your budget bright. Find the perfect shoes for you and yours at a DSW store near you or dsw.com.
Doogie.
Sam.
We're almost halfway through the Serie A season, and Atalanta sit top of the tree. So it's time to ask the question, could they actually win the Scudetto?
Impeccable recruitment, academy infrastructure, and managerial leadership. That's how you run a football club.
And it's Ademola Lookman on a hat-trick! Spectacular! What a goal!
We still have this high-risk, high-reward Gasperini system, and now it is firing on all cylinders. I don't see this slowing down. I think we finally captured lightning in a bottle, and Atalanta will, at long last, after 28 seasons in Serie A, finally lock in their Scudetto. This is Atalanta's year.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of The Truth. I'm your host, Sam Tighe. Joining me is Doogie Critchley. Hello.
Hello, Sam. Great to be here.
And our producer, Jack Collins.
Hello, Sam. How did the Lions get on this weekend?
We scored a lot of points. Don't ask us how many we conceded.
Oh, come on.
A lot.
We lost
a lot.
We
What's
lost
a lot?
I think we lost 48-42 or something like that. I actually...
Wow.
Yeah, no,
A lot
it was
of scoring, that.
We've lost almost our entire defence now to injury, so we are absolutely...
The pre-Christmas excuses, is it?
We are screwed. Absolutely screwed. Never mind, eh? I now support the Buffalo Bills.
Okay. Can you do the same thing with Villa, or does that not work?
Is it like winner stays on?
It's very much winner. Yeah, very much winner stays on. We'll see. Josh Allen MVP, if you ask me. Right, we promised to spread our wings and fly to the continent starting this week, and we have done so. This is not the Mbappe episode that we promised you. That's coming next week. This week we are talking Atalanta. Before we do that, would you like to hear a story of how I've been done out of £15 this week?
Why not?
And when I say done out, I mean I've really messed up and it's all my fault.
Okay.
I was supposed to order a pair of white socks from Sports Direct ready for Thursday for a team shoot, football team photo shoot in our nice new kit that one of our team members so nicely designed and had made. And trust me, I know a thing or two about getting kits made and delivered. It is really tough work. So big shout out to him. He gave us lots of notice, said just go on Sports Direct's website and just buy these very normal looking Adidas white socks, please. And that will be complete for the kit. And I left it until really, really late. So on Monday, I went to order the kit, order the socks, and the standard delivery time on Sports Direct is 3 to 7 days. And I was like, I can't guarantee they'll be here on Thursday. That was a £5. So the next option was next day delivery for a tenner. For a tenner. For a £6 pair of socks. £10. So I thought, here's what I'll do.
You don't own any white socks. This is baffling.
No, no football white socks.
Okay,
white socks.
Not full length.
So I thought I'll game the system. I'm going to go and find a pair of trainers because I need a new pair of trainers. Mm-hmm. I'm going to go find a pair of trainers on Sports Direct and I'm going to buy them, and it's going to be the same fee for next day delivery, and I'm going to game the system by making it more worth my money.
I see the logic.
Yeah, so had the trainers delivered. They sent the wrong trainers, and now I have to pay £5 to send them back.
Oh no.
So I've paid £15 in delivery fees for a pair of socks that cost £6.
But at least you got the socks.
I got the socks.
You're going to look damn good on Thursday.
I am, but...
At what price?
I am really annoyed.
I've won, but at what cost? Why didn't you just ask? I would have brought you a pair of white football socks. You're a nut.
I didn't think.
Yeah, you do see 2 football regulars every Tuesday.
I thought I'd won, but I didn't win. Anyway, now let's talk about Atalanta. I'm going to be a true host this week because I really haven't seen very much Atalanta. The broadcasting rights for Serie A in England are a mess, and we have to pick and choose our battles nowadays.
And you're with child. You have a child.
Yeah. Doogie.
That would be a turnout for the books this Christmas.
It's very Christmassy, right? Sam is with child.
Jeez. Yes, I do have a small child. Although it hasn't stopped me from watching a few other leagues, but I'm just not gonna do it. Anyway, this is where Jack really comes into his own.
Useful.
Yes, you are useful. And Doogie, you love them as well. So real backseat hosting from me, pinging it off both of you. Let's see what we've got. Atalanta. Doogie, why are we talking about Atalanta?
Well, I think it's a good time to talk about them, for sure, because if you look around the rest of Europe right now, there are familiar faces atop most of the European leagues. So we've got Barcelona marginally ahead of Real Madrid. PSG in France, it looks like that's going to be a bit of a procession. Bayern Munich had a sticky weekend, but you'd expect them to... Well, no, I'm still backing them to come out on top. Liverpool in the Premier League, we are used to them being right up there, if not necessarily on top. But you head over to Serie A, and Atalanta lead the way. Now, if you're not familiar with Serie A, Atalanta are a team from a town the size of Crawley, which is Bergamo in northern Italy. And I can't emphasise enough that if you're not watching Serie A, which you should have been doing for the last 4 or 5 years anyway, because it is, I think, the most competitive and entertaining league in Europe's top 5 leagues, you should be watching it this year.
Because you've got very much told me off there.
Yeah. Well, that's the child, I'm telling off your boy. Atalanta are top on 37 points right now. We've got Inter Milan on 34 in third, and in fifth we've got Lazio on 31. So there are 6 points, and it has been tighter up until the last couple of weeks, but 6 points between first and fifth. Juventus not really in the discussion, drawing far too many games. 10 draws in 16 games. Absolutely nuts.
I love how much that winds you up. This is what I've noticed over the last 6 weeks or so. How about, certain things annoy me in football. Juventus drawing every game right now is really annoying you.
It's a full episode in itself, though, that one.
Yeah. Why do they draw?
I mean, going into last week, they'd drawn 5 of their 20 games 0-0. Which is kind of crazy.
It's not on.
It's not really great. And then Milan not really in the discussion this season anyway. But anyway, Atalanta, so they got off to a bit of a sticky start. They won 2 of their first 6 league games. They sat 12th. Since then, they have reeled off 10 straight wins in Serie A. That is the best run in their history, which, as Jack and I will get into during the course of this episode, their recent history, that's really impressive. Their best run ever. They've scored 28 goals in those 10 games. They've conceded 5 in that time. And they haven't just been impressive in the league either. They've got 3 wins and 2 draws from 6 games in the Champions League. They've beaten Shakhtar, Stuttgart and Young Boys. They're probably yet to beat a side that you wouldn't expect them to beat maybe in the Champions League.
They gave Arsenal a really good game.
They did indeed.
David Raya's penalty save was the talk of the town. And that really does show you how well Arsenal did to get a point out of that.
For sure. And yeah, they've also drawn against Celtic, who have proved themselves to be no mugs for the first time in a while in the Champions League this year. And that 3-2 defeat against Real Madrid, where after the first 30 minutes or so, and really since after Mbappe got injured, which we'll be discussing and no doubt on next week's episode, Atalanta really came into their own and gave them a really, really good run for their money. So as it stands in mid-December, Atalanta looks set for a really special season. And it could be an all-timer season, because if they win Serie A, they won their first trophy since the mid-60s last year, the Europa League, but there's got the potential to be even more special this year.
Yeah, so let's set the table there, because Atalanta looking good is no new thing. Mm-hmm. They obviously won the Europa League last year. Brilliant, absolutely brilliant. They beat the truly unbeaten until that point, Bayer Leverkusen in the final, really convincingly. Mm-hmm. Ademola Lookman with a hat-trick, and it ruined the entire narrative. Almost, no, not the entire, a portion of the narrative of Bayer Leverkusen's ridiculous season. They were not European unbeaten. They were only domestically unbeaten. Poor them. But Atalanta were the ones that stood up to that and turned up in the final. And they've been in amongst it for the last 10 years or so. As far back as 2016-17, they were nudging into the top 4. They've been in and out of that area ever since. The lowest they finished is 8th. They've booked a 7th, but mostly they're 6th, 5th, 4th, something like that. They're always in the mix. So this isn't like, oh my God, Atalanta have emerged from nowhere. Mm-hmm. They're not recently promoted. However, putting together a winning run like this, incredible. Rubbing elbows with this Inter team and this Juve team, maybe not this Juve team, this Napoli team, let's say, is really impressive. And just a cursory glance through the scorelines, Doogie. 6-1 against Verona, 5-1 against Genoa, 4-0 Lecce, 3-0 against Napoli, bit fortunate but fine, 6-1 against Young Boys. The big game record, all right, they lost 4-0 to Inter, but they've beaten Napoli 3-0, Roma 2-0, Milan 2-1, Fiorentina 3-2. They've got Lazio and Juventus to come. If Lazio's performance against Inter on Monday night is anything to go by, that's going to be 12-0, and Juve is going to be 0-0. So the record checks out. Even at a cursory glance here, we're looking at an Atalanta team that, yes, is good. We acknowledge that. But maybe just stepping it on at even another level. Yeah,
absolutely. And I think we'll get into Inter Milan. Well, we might as well touch on it now. I think Inter Milan were most people's favourites going into this season.
They definitely were my pick for the Scudetto. Jack, you picked them too?
Yeah, I did. I thought it was going to be a very tight race between...
Oh no, did you pick Napoli?
I said it was Napoli or Inter. I can't remember which way I fell on that.
I think you went
Napoli.
But
I might have been Napoli.
I think you went Napoli.
I think that...
But they're the two teams that are right there and there.
Yeah, it's not. I think Atalanta remain the kind of wild card here, right? Like it's not. I think a lot of people expected Juventus to be better than they have been, and look, that's a whole different question. But I think Inter are comfortable favourites to retain the Scudetto with what they did in the summer, with the work that they put in, with some of the performances we've seen,
and that squad depth.
And that squad depth is unbelievable. But you come to this point and you're looking at it and thinking, well, maybe it is Atalanta's time. And that, I think, is the really exciting narrative coming out of Serie A.
And Jack, I referenced that since 2016-17, Atalanta have kind of been in this mix, this top 4 conversation, nudging their way into contention for things. The one constant, I say one constant, actually, there are a couple of players left over from this time, even 8 years on. But the main constant here is the manager, Gian Piero Gasperini. So, Jack, you have done no shortage of waxing lyrical about this guy since I've known you, which is about 8 years.
Yeah.
And I'm going to invite you to wax lyrical about him again and talk about his principles.
I think what's really interesting about Gasperini is that, pound for pound, over the last 8 years, I really struggle to name a manager who has done a gooder job. Like, I think you probably look at someone like a Simeone and you look at a Klopp, but and a Pep Guardiola, right? Obviously, but
pound for pound wise,
and what Atalanta have spent, and some of the players they have lost in this time. I was doing a little bit of research for this, and I was kind of prepping on which players had departed Atalanta, and you start to forget they have players like Alessandro Bastoni in this team who left. You look at some of the players that, and I think what's really interesting about Gasperini is obviously Bastoni is a slightly bad example here because he's actually gone on and succeeded. But how many players have come into Atalanta as a place to kind of resurrect their careers? You know, I don't want to look at the story of the moment, but this is not new, right? You look back at Papu Gomez and Ilicic. You look back at all these variations and varieties that Gasperini has had. How many of the players that they have sold have gone on to do better than their time in Atalanta, or in Bergamo, I should say? And it's so few. So few. And there is this sense with Gasperini that when players come into him a little bit broken, Charles de Ketelaere stands out, right?
Oh, yeah.
A little bit broken, a little bit scarred by his time in Milan. And suddenly a leading light for a team top of the division scored against Milan the other week. You're kind of watching it and Milan must be like, why couldn't we get this out of him? Well, the answer is because you don't have Gian Piero Gasperini in charge of your team. And the way that he makes people fit, now it's a very simple system in some ways, and he's not the original proponent of a three at the back, but I think in kind of modern parlance, he might well be. Like, you actually think of what a three at the back formation looks like right now to managers like a Ruben Amorim or a Xabi Alonso. All of their variants of this three at the back formation owe something to Gian Piero Gasperini and what he has done with this Atalanta team. And I think that's remarkable. Like, to actually look at how many people have been inspired by this. And it's not a Conte three at the back, even though Conte is now playing four again at Napoli, which is quite jokes and quite amusing, seeing it was his sort of Juventus formation. Like, there was this sense for a while that a three at the back was an incredibly defensive thing to do, right? That it was a maneuver that actually didn't allow you to have as much attacking freedom. And Gasperini has sort of waved at all those people going,
yeah, no way.
Yeah. Like, he hasn't flexed from that desire to play attacking, exciting football. His Atalanta sides have always been great to watch, even then when they've not been, at the top of their game. Even in the off seasons where they haven't been challenging for Champions League football, they're always an exciting team to get, to have on the TV and to watch. And I think that when you put that together with an incredibly vociferously localized fan base, and look, Campanile is a thing that exists in Italy, that you kind of defend your own clock tower, right? That's where quite a lot of this municipal local pride comes from. But Bergamo is a town in the shadow of Milan. There's a saying that they say in these parts, it's basically like, the Milanese live in Milan, the Bergamaschi built it. And it's a very kind of working class community, blue collar, a lot of kind of manual labor work comes from Bergamo, and it's a province next to it in Brescia. But it's why that this matters so much. This team they have a little bit of that kind of Marseille-esque sweat through the shirt kind of vibe. But on top of that, they've always played really entertaining football. And to marry those two things together and take a club of this size in a town this size to the heights they have reached in the last 8 years, which have eclipsed, let's be honest, the other 109 years in Atalanta's history already. This year and this plan for the Scudetto, but last year in the crowning joy of the Europa League, eclipses pretty much anything that's ever been achieved with this football club. If they could win the league, it would be something absolutely incredible.
Yeah, out of this world, really. We mentioned a few names there, Doogie, with Papu Gomez and Ilicic and a few others too. Surely this is the ultimate streets won't forget team, or that era of players. So when he says those names, I think of Duvan Zapata as well. And we are just going to briefly move back to the Atalanta of 5 years ago and 8 years ago, the team that really arrived on our radar. Like, I don't think I'd ever uttered the word Atalanta before 2016.
Yeah.
And then suddenly they're who I want to play with on FIFA because of Papu, because of Ilicic, because of Duvan Zapata, Frank Kessié, Spinazzola played for them. Luis Muriel, so good.
Pasalic, Mailer, the list goes on. Gersons,
Robin Gersons, Hatterbo. So
Romero?
Christian Romero was there, yeah. He was brilliant for them as well, actually.
Signed for 2 million, sold for 40. That
Crazy.
Is exactly the model.
Yeah, and that almost gives me goosebumps, Doogie, reeling off those names.
Yeah, absolutely. It's an endless list. And just as a very final point on Jack's beautiful eulogy about Gasperini, is that he's kind of come from nowhere, as in the only club that he'd ever lasted over 70 games at prior to Atalanta was Genoa. You know, this is a guy that was fired after 5 games and 4 defeats at Inter Milan in 2011. But that Genoa side,
I do remember that,
is really well known as like the side where so many top managers have come from, like Palladino, who's now in charge of Fiorentina. Thiago Motta was playing for that Genoa side, now in charge of Juventus. Ivan Juric, who had a really bad spell recently in charge of Roma. I mean, Roma,
but generally has been
a very solid Serie A manager. So you can see the impact of that throughout that side, and you know, you can see the managers that have turned into. Or the players that turned into top managers, and you can see the players that he's brought through that have succeeded at other clubs, but also some players that really fulfilled their full potential at Atalanta. You know, so in 2016-17, he signs Gianluca Mancini for £1.9 million from Perugia, Hans Hatteber, just over €1 million as well. Players like Galini, Spinazzola, Cristante, these are Serie A regulars. The following year,
these guys are Euro 2020 winners.
Exactly. The following year brings in Martin de Roon from Middlesbrough. Still there. Has been.
To be fair, they had sold Martin de Roon to Middlesbrough first.
True.
They did, yeah.
That was just as Gasperini arrived, if I'm not mistaken. They sold him off to Middlesbrough, and he took one look at that and was like, "Take me back."
Yeah. Really weird move.
I watched Martin de Roon play for Middlesbrough in the flesh at the London Stadium. From a very, very long way away, as you do when you watch West Ham. It was a terrible game of football. Who was that guy up front? Argentinian. It'll come to me. I'll think of it later.
I'm not sure.
For West Ham. It was a terrible game, and Martin de Roon it looked like he didn't know what had hit him. And I didn't know what had hit me.
It wasn't
either.
Lanzini, no. You mean like
No, it was Jonathan Caeri.
Okay.
That was it.
Wow.
He was rubbish. Never mind. Anyway, please continue.
But that sums up the sort of era that Martin de Roon was sort of struggling in the Premier League at that time. And since going to Atalanta, he'll go down as one of the best players in their history. Not in the same way as a Papu Gomez or an Ilicic, but just in terms of just pure servancy to the club, really. Yeah. He arrives the same summer as Timothy Castagna, Robin Gosens, who's already been mentioned. You know, Gasperini basically devised a system for a couple of years where Robin Gosens would arrive at the back post for headers and back post finishes. He scored 9 goals and 11 goals in back-to-back Serie A seasons from a left-back who, you know, had an amazing Euro 2020, but aside from his time at Atalanta, has not really done very much. But this is what Gasperini does. He signs players that he clearly sees ingredients in, and you know, you should give credit to the recruitment team as well, who have had difficult times, but there is clearly a player in there. Gianluca Scamacca, difficult time at West Ham, was unbelievable last year. The only reason that you brought in Retegui this summer was because Scamacca did his ACL injury. The players that have been taken through their academy, you know, Locatelli, Kulusevski, Bastoni, Scalvini, who's now back from injury as well, which gives a lot of hope for the future. Amad Diallo came through the Atalanta Academy. Like, there's so much work behind the scenes there that's not just purely on Gasperini, but the players and the performances that he got out of Zapata, Luis Muriel, Ilicic, Papu Gomez. You know, there was a time that they weren't just the most watchable team in Europe, but they were actually filled with the most amount of underrated players, I think, as well. Like, Ilicic was kind of nicknamed the grandma, I think it was, because he was so weak physically in terms of his like pace. He had absolutely no pace whatsoever. But what he could do on the ball, like prior to COVID, I think it was the 2019-20 season. I think prior to COVID, does he score 4 goals or 3 goals against Valencia in the Champions League? Yeah. He was on a Ballon d'Or run of 4.
It was outrageous. I just kind of wanted to jump on something that you just said there. In the And it's another string to Gasperini's bow here, is that he is tied to a kind of philosophy in terms of how he wants to play football, but he's adaptable as well in terms of how he strings it. How many managers could build a pretty much a title-winning season in terms of the Europa League around Gianluca Scamacca, lose him in the summer, bring in a completely different profile of forward in Matteo Retegui, who not only can look at that and say, okay, you can hold the line for us while he's not there, but actually, when we come back, could we play a 2 up front with Scamacca and Retegui? The Italian manager Spalletti must be looking at this and thinking, oh my God,
Thanks,
he's
mate.
doing all the work for me. I don't need to do anything else. But how many managers could bring in a striker of a completely different profile and somehow get better from a team that thought they'd reached their peak last season? It's incredible what he does.
Just very quickly, Googled what you were talking about with the 4 goals. A lovely little headline here, BBC Sport. Josip Ilicic scored 4 goals against Valencia as Atalanta eased into the Champions League quarter-finals 2020.
Amazing.
It was the bizarre empty stadium COVID.
It was weird. But, I mean, he was arguably the best player in that sort of preceding 3-4 months in the entirety of Europe. And that was a side with a European scene with Messi still very much at the forefront. And Papu Gomez was signed from Metalist Kharkiv in Ukraine. He'd spent the previous 3 years prior to 1 year in Ukraine with Catania in Serie A. Bonaventura, I think, when I was doing some research into this earlier, left on deadline day, I should say, in summer 2014. They signed Papu Gomez. He got 59 goals and 72 assists in 252 games for the club.
He got even more than that for me on FIFA. Yeah. He was unreal.
He was just remarkable. You know, he was captained by his 3rd season. And in 2016-17, when Gasperini arrives, he gets 16 goals and 12 assists in 37 league games. More than a goal or an assist every game. For an Atalanta side that prior to Gasperini's arrival had been a mid-table Serie A side, as we say, finished 4th that year. He set the Serie A record for assists in 2019-20. And then what happens is the downfall's almost as quick as the rise with Papu Gomez. He falls out with Gasperini during a game against Midtjylland in the Champions League, refuses to come on after half-time, and he's out of the team, and he's left the club by the end of the season. So by 2021, Papu Gomez has left. Ilicic then leaves in 2022. He has a number of mental health issues, etc. It's a really sad sort of end to his career, something that he really didn't deserve at all. But Papu Gomez left the same year as Mancini and Castagna. Ilicic left alongside Christian Romero. And you're like, can he rebuild another side? We haven't really seen him do it yet. There's been a turnover of young players, but we haven't seen 2 icons leave in such a short space amount of time. Who arrives? Teun Koopmeiners comes in 2021. Edison, Demiral less successful, but Højlund, Lookman in 2022. I mean, Højlund didn't stay long there, but he turned an amazing profit for the club. Scamacca and Charles de Ketelaere in 2023. And then permanently de Ketelaere this summer. Retegi's hit the ground running. Bellanova's been great. Zaniolo's even started scoring regularly. Kasunu's barely got a look in, despite being a key part of Bayer Leverkusen's amazing season last year. And this is a side that this honestly blew my mind when I saw it earlier. So in terms of net spend in the last 5 years of transfers, since the 2020-2021 season, but they've made a €123 million profit on transfers in that time. That is second in the entirety of Europe's top 5 leagues to Lille, who, you know, they've won a league title, Lille, but they haven't been nearly as successful on the European stage as Atalanta. An €123 million profit. This just doesn't happen to clubs with this sort of model. You're looking at a Brighton turning into Premier League challengers or something similar. It's even more beyond Brighton. And it's a simple system in many ways. It feels like they stay connected at all different points. There is a lot of quick interchange between players on the ball, athletic wing-backs. I mean, having said that, Hatterber was never really an athletic wing-back.
He was big, though.
He was big. He was a big unit. Exactly.
Rumbler, yeah.
And they adapt to the playing abilities and the strengths of all their players. And if they won Serie A this year, it would be one of the funnest seasons and funnest things I've experienced since working in football for the last 8 years.
The Champions League, Copa Libertadores, the World Cup. The world's top athletes get to play in these top-level sporting events thanks to one thing: teamwork. And teamwork can also protect your financial legacy and your family's future. SelectQuote's licensed insurance agents are the perfect teammates when shopping for customized, affordable life insurance. They can find you the right policy to keep your financial legacy safely in your family's home ground. SelectQuote is one of America's leading insurance brokers with nearly 40 years of experience, helping over 2 million customers find over $700 billion in coverage since 1985. Other life insurance brokers offer impersonal, one-size-fits-all policies that may cost you more and cover you less, while SelectQuote's licensed insurance agents work for you to tailor a life insurance policy for your individual needs in as little as 15 minutes. And have you ever worried about getting coverage with pre-existing health conditions? SelectQuote partners with carriers that provide policies for a variety of health conditions. High blood pressure, diabetes, done your ACL? No problem. Select Quote partners with carriers that can cover those conditions and loads of others. Or, if you don't have any major health issues, they work with carriers that can get you same-day coverage with no medical exam required. Get the right life insurance for you for less at selectquote.com/ranks. Go to selectquote.com/ranks today to get started. That's selectquote.com/ranks.
This podcast is brought to you by Kleenex Lotion Tissues. You can't predict sick days, but with Kleenex Lotion Tissues, you can be better prepared for them while helping keep your skin healthy. Kleenex Lotion Tissues moisturize to help prevent skin irritation while you're battling those unwanted cold and flu symptoms. It's extra care when you need it most. Keep relief within reach. Grab Kleenex Lotion Tissues to help avoid the added discomfort of irritated skin during cold and flu season. For whatever happens next, grab Kleenex.
Did you know that parents rank financial literacy as the #1 most difficult life skill to teach? Meet Greenlight, the debit card and money app for families. With Greenlight, you can set up chores, automate allowance, and keep an eye on your kids' spending with real-time notifications. Kids learn to earn, save, and spend wisely, and parents can rest easy knowing their kids are learning about money with guardrails in place. Sign up for Greenlight today at greenlight.com/podcast.
It's the Monday you've been waiting for. DSW's Cyber Monday sale is happening now at DSW.com. Today only, save 35% on almost everything online. Score the best deals of the year on must-have shoes, giftable bags, and cozy extras for everyone on your list, including you. Don't miss out. Save 35% online only at DSW.com today. Exclusions apply. Details at DSW.com.
Americans love using their credit cards, the most secure and hassle-free way to pay. But D.C. politicians want to change that with the Durbin-Marshall credit card bill. This bill lets corporate megastores pick how your credit card is processed, allowing them to use untested payment networks that jeopardize your data security and rewards. Corporate megastores will make more money, and you pay the price. Tell Congress to guard your card, because Americans lose when politicians choose. Learn more at guardyourcard.com.
I was going to ask you for what would be the Premier League parallel, because I was fishing around for one earlier, and where I got to was Palace suddenly winning, turning into something a lot better, and then using that as a platform to win the league. But maybe Brighton is
Brighton's a good example.
Brighton is probably the right comparing Brighton to Palace there, are we? One thing that you guys didn't mention while talking about Gasperini there, which I think is obviously it's probably quite important, is the man marking. So obviously he didn't invent man marking. No one's pretending he did. That was invented when the game was invented, like hundreds of years ago. But he is one of those coaches, along with Marcelo Bielsa, who has popularized or radicalized man marking to a very aggressive degree, in the same way, really, that you'd say that his attacking football has become a tactical benchmark of his. Really, really avid and aggressive man marking across the pitch has also been a big factor, which made them really stick out. And it's definitely helped some of the players. Like if you give Christian Romero like a libero role from the back and tell him to man mark and then run up front, I mean, no wonder he went for £40 million. He's able to unleash not just the attacking players and show their best, but in the same way that like Marcelo Bielsa made Stuart Dallas look like one of the most like incredible fullbacks for 6 months or whatever, or Luke Ayling as a fullback and Stuart Dallas as a midfielder, he has that effect on players. It doesn't always last for years and years and years. Sometimes there can be a bit of physical burnout there, but when they actually hit their stride under him, it's incredible. The other thing I noticed is that over the last 8 years or so, 8.5 it is, there hasn't been a lot of change to his actual template. Like it's almost always been 3-4-1-2 or 3-4-2-1. However you want to flip the triangle up front, it depends on the personnel. He used to have Papu Gomez and Ilicic behind Duvan Zapata, for example. But right now he might have one behind two. We'll see. It doesn't matter. Always back three, always wing backs, and then front three, different alignment. But not a lot has changed. Right. But then you look at the current team and you can see those echoes of the previous players, not just from the reconciliation of these players, like, how he's fixed, Charles de Ketelaar, but how he's taken Ederson and made him this voracious athletic presence that reminds me of peak Frank Kessie, and the way he's taken Ademola Lookman and made him feel a bit like Ilicic at times with the way he carries the ball. And I'm like, I can see all the echoes of the past in the current team, and it still works. And it's still working for him. It's incredible.
Yeah, absolutely. I had a text from a friend watching Real Madrid, Atalanta last week, and he said, I don't know whether it's a bit sad that Lookman's now one of the best left wingers in Europe. And I said, I don't think it's sad at all. Like, this is a player that's clearly peaking under the right coach in the right environment. But I did say, do not be surprised if this continues under Gasperini. This is what he does, particularly with attacking players. Like, Duvan Zapata had never scored more than 13 league goals in a season prior to joining Atalanta. He went 23, 18, 15, 10 in the next 4 seasons. So there is a drop-off there, but he did have a lot of injuries.
He did.
Luis Muriel had never scored more than 11 in a season. In his first 2 seasons at Atalanta, 18 and 22. His XG per 90 went from 0.22 prior to arriving to 0.91. He improved by 0.7 XG per 90 in 1 season. And look, I'm not saying that Luis Muriel wasn't trying hard at his previous club, but that is clearly a result of a coach and a system that gets the best out of their attacking players. They scored 98 league goals and 90 goals in back-to-back years under Gasperini. In the 5 seasons that he took over, their highest amount of goals in a season was 43. He juices attacking players' numbers like nothing else. Any Premier League striker or any striker in Europe who is struggling right now, and Evan Ferguson, try and get yourself to Atalanta somehow. He can rescue you.
Do you know Duvan Zapata nearly joined QPR once? I think he failed a medical. That was a bullet dodged.
Is that in the Tony Fernandez sort of
without
craziness?
A shadow of a doubt. It's probably the same window they signed Chris Samba. For sure. Okay, look, you can't dance around it any longer. I have to ask the question. Is this genuinely sustainable over the course of the year, and can they actually do this? And before you answer, just a bit of context for the listener. Dougie, stop snarling.
No, I'm struggling with the answer.
Yeah, well, just a bit of context, and maybe this will sway you, I don't know. They are top of the league. They're on a hell of a run, but they are by no means clear at the top of the league. There are some very, very strong contenders here, and despite this run, Inter have scored more, conceded fewer, and would be level on Atalanta if they win their game in hand. So Inter are also setting this very, very strong pace. And Conte's Napoli are really humming here. Jack's pick, I believe, for the 5x5s. No European midweeks for them. They've got a clear schedule. We usually know what that means under Conte. And I'm pretty sure that's part of the reason why you ended up picking them, mate. So can they do it? Because it's a big task against these guys.
I'd love to see it. I think they can do it. Will they do it? I'd give it a 20% chance, if I'm totally honest, as low as that.
Okay, that's a nice way to put it, though. Jack, will you go higher or lower on 20%?
I'll take it higher, but not by loads. Like I'd probably put it about 25, 30. I think they have the capacity to do this, and my answer was very similar to Dougie's in that I think they can. Will they? That's a different question. Mm-hmm. And like we say, there's a lot of depth in this Inter side, and as you point out, no midweeks for a Conte side usually means that they're in contention. But I would add that Atalanta have an inordinate amount of attacking depth right now, and I think that it's probably being slept on a little bit. Not only is Scamacca going to come back to rotate in that number 9 role with Retegui, or potentially play alongside him. We've talked about Charles de Ketelaere. There's a lot of love for Ademola Lookman. But you mentioned Zaniolo coming back and making a real difference. Lazar Samardzic was someone being courted by both Inter and Juventus ahead of this season. He scored some lovely goals, but he has barely played in that regard. And you're kind of looking at
Pasalic is knocking around, he can impact.
Pasalic can make a difference. You look at the defensive line, what he's done with Isaac Hien, who came in from Spezia, and for my money is now one of the best defenders in Serie A. He is a remarkable footballer, and also part of this new Swedish generation that look really tasty. But that's, again, another episode for a different time. There's a lot of depth in here. And look, Ben Godfrey went over there at the start of the season on loan. And look, there are reports that he might want to get out now. But he was part of this team to start with, right? He played quite a lot of games early on and has sort of been phased out. But Scalvini on his way back, Kasunu starting to find his way into this team now after, as you said, a good year at Leverkusen. Hien in there as well. There's a lot of good, got a lot of good defenders, a lot of good centre-backs. There's depth to sort of go too deep on almost every position in this team. Now, yes, obviously, if you lose an Ederson, then, there isn't all that much cover for Ederson because Ederson's a bit of a unicorn in this team. And there's a lot of chat about Premier League interest in Ederson at this point. But when I look at this team, when I look at the squad that Atalanta have got going here, and I think about the depth that they have to cover for injuries, but also maybe to rotate the side a little bit more, I don't think that Atalanta are going to look at the Champions League and think we can win this. I think they will look at Serie A and think this could be our year. And I listened to Carnesecchi talking the other day, who's the goalkeeper, who's brilliant, by the way, and Arsenal apparently interested in him. I think you can always tell how well a team's doing by how many of their players are linked to Premier League moves ahead of a January window. And with Atalanta, there's about 15 of them. Yeah. So Carnesecchi basically was like, we just don't need to think about the fact we're top of Serie A. We take each game as it comes, which is obviously a bit of a platitude. But I think that they're right. It's like, don't look down. Don't look down. Just keep climbing, right? And keep going. Do they have enough to stave off a fresh, without midweeks, Napoli and an Inter with this much depth? I don't know. But I do like the depth that Atalanta have within their own ranks in order to combat that.
Yeah, the difficulty is that I feel like I'd be surprised if they finished in the top 8 in the Champions League. But yeah, I would be surprised if they didn't qualify for the playoff round for the last 16.
Yeah.
So that's 2 more games coming in February.
Yeah.
With Inter looking like they will go through automatically. That's not ideal.
Yeah.
I also just think Lautaro Martinez, after a huge year last year, huge Copa America, he's been fairly average. I doubt he'll be average for the entire season. They've been missing. Denzel Dumfries has missed games. Pavard, who was crucial last year, has missed games. Çalhanoğlu's missed games. Acerbi's missed games. I mean, maybe inevitable with Acerbi given his age. But it just feels like Inter winning 8 of their last 10, responding to Atalanta winning again at the weekend with a 6-0 win. They're not going anywhere, this Inter Milan side.
6-0 win away to Lazio.
Crazy.
Like, what?
I know.
Yeah, Lazio 5th.
I mean,
they just battered them 6-0.
Doesn't matter what.
It was a bit of a strange game.
It doesn't matter what decade you're in.
That
That is jaw-dropping. It's absolutely jaw-dropping.
Inzaghi against his old club as well. Huge statement.
Of course. Well, I'm sad to hear that the faith in it lasting the whole distance is relatively low. Not out of the question, but relatively. But I always appreciate a bit of realism, especially from Jack Collins, who's not known for it.
Really?
Not known for it at all. Have you met him?
Big believer.
No, but
like, as in also,
he's a dream. It's not a believer, it's a dreamer.
If I'm giving them a 25 to 30% chance, there's not miles off what I'm giving everybody else, right?
Plus that's his public pronouncement. You know, in the head it's 60, 65.
I probably have Inter about 40%. I probably have Napoli about 30 and Atalanta about 30.
All right,
I don't see anyone else winning it.
When you put it like that, it's not a bad split at all. All right, let's end this with just a little bit more on Gasperini himself, because I just want to say that obviously everything you guys have said is true, and there are lots of people that revere Gasperini as a bit of a miracle worker. You know, what he's managed to do on a relative limited budget is incredible. He is a very controversial figure. There's quite a lot of people that do not like Gasperini. And for those that just don't know anything about him and don't know Atalanta's story, I thought it would be handy context to have. And I just went through and dug out a few examples. First of all, he's a very grouchy man. He moans and he complains a hell of a lot. And there are a lot of fans from other clubs who really don't like that. And I think we can all sympathise with that. I, for example, really struggled to get on board with Gary O'Neill and Steve Cooper because they complain every single game, even about stuff that was right. They'll still moan, and that really, really gets on my nerves. So Gasperini for a long time now has complained very loudly about things, and it just rubs people up the wrong way. Comes across as a bit grouchy, bit negative. He's not the most popular person. There's also an element of this, of course, is that he is upsetting the establishment. He is the figurehead of an Atalanta side that shouldn't be anywhere near this. And in Italy, you have a real establishment. You have like decorated historic clubs in Inter, in Milan, in Juventus, in Lazio. The golden era of 90s football was Italian. These are institutions. And Atalanta are punching them all in the face. And they don't like it. And he's the reason. So that's why he gets a bit of flack too. He also has rubbed some players up the wrong way.
Absolutely.
Clearly, some of them have loved playing for him. But if you listen to Joachim Mailer, apparently playing for Gasperini is like being in the army. That's what he said. And Merit Demiral wholeheartedly agrees because he quote tweeted Mailer's quotes with a thumbs up and said, all is true. Mailer, for what it's worth, the quote was, you don't feel like a person, you feel like a number. You don't have any rapport with the manager. He torments you over weird things. For example, Rasmus Højlund and I went to training together, but Gasperini didn't want us to drive together because then we could sit down, talk and have fun on the way to training. Even the club told me I could take Rasmus to training because he can't drive, but Gasperini didn't want me to.
Walk there, man. Walk.
Hoyland on the tram.
I also would add, though, that Joachim Mæhle had the best spell of his entire club career under Gasperini.
Without a shadow of a doubt. He was unreal for 2.5 years.
It's one of those things where I'm like, okay, yeah, it probably wasn't that fun, but my God, you were good.
It's effective.
Absolutely. And to that point, he really strikes me as one of those Mourinho-like figures where you're either one thing or the other. You are, to carry on Mæhle's analogy, you are a foot soldier who will die on the battlefield for him, or you'll hate him and you'll never want to set foot in the same room with him ever again. I really feel like he's one of those figures. And that's natural. You know, where personality like that, some people are on board, some people are not. One last thing, mostly to bring a smile to Jack's face. He once called Federico Chiesa a diver. And it has sparked quite a long feud between the Fiorentina fan base and Gasperini. They've booed him. They've said some very unsavoury things about his mother in the past, to which he has clapped back to. But it all goes back to 2018 when he accused Federico Chiesa of making the most of contact and telling everyone that Chiesa should be punished for it.
It's funny because obviously the Fiorentina fans hate Chiesa because he left for Juventus. Yeah. So I mean a feud, but one that's not necessarily maintained to this day, should we say?
No, but a good bit of fun. But I hope that gives you a fuller picture as well of just the kind of a character he is. He is fairly abrasive. He is pretty direct.
Yeah, you might have 4 or 5 years under him. Could be difficult to go further.
I mean, and to be honest, when I was looking back at his previous teams, there are a couple of players that have hung on that 7 or 8 years, but not many, for obvious reasons. Rafael Toloi is the one who is just
loves it.
He's always been
I'll
there.
get the tram gas.
And he's still there. Like, he's fine, but he's 34 now. He doesn't play too much, and he's probably just like, it's just Gasperini's way. It's
the old
fine.
soldier.
He's been there through this whole glorious, wonderful period. Rafael Toloi probably never thought he'd reach these heights, but he has done.
And he probably wouldn't have reached these heights if it wasn't for Gian Piero Gasperini.
Precisely. So
it also shows a commitment to his ways, though, because given he's working at a club that doesn't have the biggest budget, and if you're annoying multi-million-pound assets that might want to leave on the back of it, for him to continue maintaining that, and that kind of speaks to his principles of play as well, that he is almost so stubborn in the way he's going to act and the way he's going to play, and he has been frighteningly successful with it for a club of Atalanta's stature. So I kind of respect him for it.
I think his attitude there is, if not you, then someone else. My sporting director's pretty savvy. He'll get me someone else.
For sure.
Don't kick up too much of a fuss. All right. Merry Christmas, Atalanta fans. You're in a title race. I don't know if you're actually going to win it, but you are in the race. Your team plays great football and it wins. Find your nearest Spurs fan and give them a consoling pat on the head. Not everyone has both of those things. Okay. And happy holidays to everyone who listens to the pod. Thank you for being with us these last few months. It's been great fun, Doogie, Jack, and for you guys listening, I hope as well. Next week will be the Kylian Mbappe episode. I promise, I guarantee it. I can say this because we've already recorded it, so I know it's coming.
Yes, indeed.
And there should be a fun Q&A episode on the Ranks Patreon just before Christmas, where Doogie and I can answer a few questions. So, Jack, I assume you'll put a post up Sunday, Monday?
Yeah, it'll be up, and we'll put it out over that Christmas period.
And we'll be recording that Monday, Tuesday, something like that. So look out for that. Submit your questions if you do have any. Until then, thank you, Doogie.
Thank you, Sam.
Thank you, Jack.
Thank you, Sam. Merry Christmas.
And thank you to all of you as well. See you next week.
The Champions League, Copa Libertadores, the World Cup. The world's top athletes get to play in these top-level sporting events thanks to one thing: teamwork. And teamwork can also protect your financial legacy and your family's future. Select Quote's licensed insurance agents are the perfect teammates when shopping for customized, affordable life insurance. They can find you the right policy to keep your financial legacy safely in your family's home ground. Select Quote is one of America's leading insurance brokers with nearly 40 years of experience, helping over 2 million customers find over $700 billion in coverage since 1985. Other life insurance brokers offer impersonal, one-size-fits-all policies that may cost you more and cover you less, while Select Quote's licensed insurance agents work for you to tailor a life insurance policy for your individual needs in as little as 15 minutes. And have you ever worried about getting coverage with pre-existing health conditions? Select Quote partners with carriers that provide policies for a variety of health conditions. High blood pressure, diabetes, done your ACL? No problem. SelectQuote partners with carriers that can cover those conditions and loads of others. Or, if you don't have any major health issues, they work with carriers that can get you same-day coverage with no medical exam required. Get the right life insurance for you for less at selectquote.com/ranks. Go to selectquote.com/ranks today to get started. That's selectquote.com/ranks.
This podcast is brought to you by Kleenex Lotion Tissues. You can't predict sick days, but with Kleenex Lotion Tissues, you can be better prepared for them while helping keep your skin healthy. Kleenex Lotion Tissues moisturize to help prevent skin irritation while you're battling those unwanted cold and flu symptoms. It's extra care when you need it most. Keep relief within reach. Grab Kleenex Lotion Tissues to help avoid the added discomfort of irritated skin during cold and flu season. For whatever happens next, grab Kleenex.
Holiday magic is in the air, and DSW's got all the shoes to make your season extra merry. Believe, you've got parties to attend and lists to check twice, so DSW is taking care of the details, like gifts to make their eyes all aglow, styles that bring joy to your world, brands everyone wants, like UGG, Nike, Birkenstock, and more, and deals to make your budget bright. Find the perfect shoes for you and yours at a DSW store near you or dsw.com.
Did you know adults with financial literacy skills have 82% more wealth than those who don't? From swimming lessons to piano classes, as parents, we invest in so many things to enrich our kids' lives. But how much are we investing in their future financial success? With Greenlight, you can teach your kids essential skills like earning, saving, and investing, giving them the tools for financial confidence. This investment costs less than an after-school treat at Starbucks. Start prioritizing their financial education today with Greenlight. Invest in their future at greenlight.com/podcast.
Americans love using their credit cards, the most secure and hassle-free way to pay. But DC politicians want to change that with the Durbin-Marshall credit card bill. This bill lets corporate megastores pick how your credit card is processed, allowing them to use untested payment networks that jeopardize your data security and rewards. Corporate megastores will make more money, and you pay the price. Tell Congress to guard your card, because Americans lose when politicians choose. Learn more at guardyourcard.com.
The Champions League, Copa Libertadores, the World Cup. The world's top athletes get to play in these top-level sporting events thanks to one thing: teamwork. And teamwork can also protect your financial legacy and your family's future. SelectQuote's licensed insurance agents are the perfect teammates when shopping for customized, affordable life insurance. They can find you the right policy to keep your financial legacy safely in your family's home ground. SelectQuote is one of America's leading insurance brokers with nearly 40 years of experience, helping over 2 million customers find over $700 billion in coverage since 1985. Other life insurance brokers offer impersonal, one-size-fits-all policies that may cost you more and cover you less, while SelectQuote's licensed insurance agents work for you to tailor a life insurance policy for your individual needs in as little as 15 minutes. And have you ever worried about getting coverage with pre-existing health conditions? SelectQuote partners with carriers that provide policies for a variety of health conditions. High blood pressure, diabetes, done your ACL? No problem. SelectQuote partners with carriers that can cover those conditions and loads of others. Or, if you don't have any major health issues, they work with carriers that can get you same-day coverage with no medical exam required. Get the right life insurance for you for less at selectquote.com/ranks. Go to selectquote.com/ranks today to get started. That's selectquote.com/ranks.